Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Lathan Minich Show. I am your host, Lathan MS Minich. This is episode number 6, entitled Daddy. In this episode, I'm going to talk about a significant development in my family. To put it simply, I found my father. I'm going to talk about how much of my therapy work over the past 6 years has put a spotlight on my daddy issues or father wound, to put it in a more clinical verbiage, and about a recent breakthrough I've had in that area. Before I get further into this, let me start with the routine stuff. The Lathan Minich Show is available on all the top podcasting platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, etc. The video version of this podcast can be found on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LathanMinich. Or, if you have the YouTube app, just search my name, Lathan Minich. If you're watching me on YouTube, welcome. I am Lathan Minich on Instagram and Twitter, currently known as X. My Facebook page is facebook.com/LathanMinich. If you want to send me an email, you can reach me at lathanminich@gmail.com. Now, on with the show. So as I said, I found my dad. To give you some background, I grew up not knowing my father. I only have I only have one picture where he and I are in the same space. And he's kind of awkwardly looking off camera. Um, and I guess all these years I was never really conscious of it. My therapist, Wailo Brandman, talks a lot about making things conscious. I think it's Carl Jung. Carl Jung's like an old psychiatrist or something. You can look him up. Jungian psychology. But anyway, so like all these years, I only knew my mom. I grew up with my mom. My mom worked her ass off to support me. Love you, Mom. My mom worked 2 part-time jobs for as long as I remembered. She put $125 Jordans on layaway because that's what I wanted. Now, decades later, I can really appreciate what that meant and how much that money was in the 90s. You see how much those shoes are worth nowadays. Anyway, getting off track here. My point with all of that is that I always told myself that, or I guess as I started working with Wailua, I told myself that, and I told him, is that how can I miss something that I never had? And I guess that's not entirely true because I had a father in my life at some point. I was a very small child, like really small. I had to been like, I don't know, somewhere between 2 and 4 years old, based on the picture. In the picture, I think I'm probably like toddler age. But the point is that all of that abandonment has been sitting in the back of my head for decades and has been like a weight on me. Is why I devalue myself, why I don't seek out things in life, because I guess I don't believe that I deserve them. So, and through my work with Wailua, it just points right at my father. So there is a I don't know what you want to call it, a concept in psychology, is that, at least as far as Wailua has taught me, is that children personalize everything. So as a child, if a family member, if a parent leaves, the child will think, well, there's something wrong with me. That's why this person left. And so I'll make it about me. So my dad left, so I made that about me. My mom's having a hell of a time trying to get by and support me, and that's my fault because it's about me. So as a child, I personalized all of that. Um, and that's where I think the questioning of one's value comes in. Is like, okay, so daddy left because he didn't love me. Mommy's having a hard time. That's my fault. And I guess like that's been kind of that's like the deep seated programming that's been running in my head for decades. Um, so yeah, there's your background as far as my relationship or lack thereof with my father. Um, and so again, through my work with Wailua, and I've just to be clear, I've mentioned this on other episodes. I've been in and out of therapy with different therapists for 15 years. I think 14 years at this point. Um, and that topic has come up, like, oh, have you ever thought about trying to find your father? Um, and it came up multiple times working with Wailua. Um, at one point, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna seek him out, and then I would just kind of, I don't even know if I would give up on it. I would just kind of forget about it. I would conveniently forget about it. But so I just realized, Jason, if you're watching, if you're listening, thank you. I found what I was looking for, I think. So a friend of mine bought me the Ancestry DNA kit. And so I took it, with the intention of trying to find my father or my father's family or something like that. But aside from that, just kind of curious about my own like racial ethnic background, which I kind of knew, but I didn't know. So I took the test. You spit in a tube and you send it to them, FYI. Um, and so it turns out that I'm far more mixed than I thought I was. So like I'm a third German. I'm a third, I'll say African. People like to say African American. I'm not going to get into that. African from multiple countries. And then aside from that, it's just a hodgepodge of racial and ethnic backgrounds. I'll basically say that I have racial backgrounds from every area of the world except Asian and Pacific Islander, and I live in Hawaii, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, I took that test. I found out all about that. On the Ancestry website, I put up pictures of my father, and on my profile said, I'm looking for so and so. I'm looking for this man. I'm looking for my father. And then I think I had like all my social media accounts linked on there. And when you take the Ancestry DNA test, um, it gives you matches because they have your DNA, and then there's all these other people with their DNA that they submitted, and then so Ancestry DNA knows that, oh, these people are related just from the DNA. And so like throughout all of that, I don't even remember how long it was. It was probably over a year, maybe a couple years from when I took that test, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna put in the work to research and find out and do this and that, and I never really did it. There's a membership. I think it's like Global Explorer, where you get access to all the records and whatnot from Ancestry. So that's like birth certificates, that anything having to do with population and records on people. So census. I think there's like voter registration. There's school registries, all kind of stuff. And I told myself, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I never did. Um, and so, like I said, I had like a couple. I don't even know if I like cold messaged anyone on Ancestry. I had a couple people message me saying like, "Oh yeah, it looks like we're related. You know, this is my family is this, and we're from this part of the country." And there were a couple of those, and like I looked at that and like, okay, well that doesn't really look doesn't have the same last name as my father. Doesn't look like the same part of the country. Um, so I mean, I chatted with those people, but I didn't really think that was leading anywhere. So the ironic thing is that I went to Indiana. I was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana. My mom's family, most of them still live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, or somewhere thereabouts. Um, and for me, that was kind of a big deal because like I said, I grew up in Hawaii. I had infrequent contact with most of my family in the mainland. In modern day, we have we have FaceTime, we have whatever video chat and whatnot. So it's easier to talk to people on video and stuff like that. But even that is like I'm not really spending time with these people, my family. So that was a big deal for me to go over there and just be close to them, and to spend time and eat together and all these things that are not something that I'm used to because I didn't grow up with a big family. I grew up with my mom, essentially. There were some, I don't know, you could call them surrogate families that came and went, but that's kind of the point. I think I learned like my core beliefs are that family leaves. Daddy left. Oh, we're with this other family. Oh, they left. I'm getting close to these people. So as a child, I think that's what I learned. And I think that's why I'm such a loner. I'm so independent, some people might call it. And that's why I have such we'll call them intimacy issues. I have a hard time getting close to people. And once I do, if there's any kind of separation, it's like like for example, people I work with or I used to work with. After I don't see them for a while, it's like, oh, I don't really know that person anymore, and oh, they're messaging me on Facebook, and that feels kind of weird or whatever. So that I guess that's kind of my thing. I have a I have a difficult time getting close to people, and then when there is like some kind of separation for whatever reason, it's like that part's easy for me. I find separation like, oh, I don't really know this person anymore. And it's nothing against that person. It's just like I feel the distance. Um I'm kind of rambling on that, but it feels it feels right. So yeah, back to Ancestry. Speaking of social media, so yeah, like I said, I had a bunch of matches on there. Like, oh, there's like a percentage. You're like, oh, you're this percent a match with this person, and so on and so forth. Um, so as I said, I went to Indiana, a place that, as far as I can remember, I've never been. But there are records that I have been there, and I was actually born there. Um, and like I said, that was a big deal as far as like I wouldn't say meeting my family, but like literally meeting physically and spending time with my family. Some of which I've never physically been in the same space with. Um, and I don't know, maybe that's a whole another podcast, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. Um, so that was in August. Yeah, that was about a year ago. That was last August, which is coming up on a year here. We're at the end of July here when I record this. We'll see when I upload it. And then when I got back, because yeah, so before I went to Indiana, that was a kind of a thing that's knocking around in my head. Is that, do I want to go around and, I don't know, with my mom and see if she remembers anything or anyone or anything that might lead me to my dad? It's something that was, again, knocking around in my head, but I didn't really follow through on, which is kind of a theme, has been a theme in the past for me. Um, and also I was sick for like half my trip there, so that kind of put a restriction on how much time I had to do anything. Um, so when I got back, I don't remember when it was exactly. I'm sure I could look it up. But when I got back, one of my cousins on my father's side messaged me. I think she messaged me on Ancestry, and I don't think I saw that because I wasn't really checking Ancestry regularly. And then she messaged me on Facebook, and then she said like, "Oh, that's my uncle Ronnie. Um, we're here in, I forget, well, I don't forget. I don't know why, but I'm just gonna keep the locations private for some reason. I don't even know if that matters, but yeah, I'm gonna do that. Indiana, the state of Indiana. So yeah, like, oh, we're Ronnie Stewart was my father. And so yeah, so my cousin messaged me and says, "Oh, that's my uncle Ronnie from such and such area in Indiana, and I think we're related." And then I started talking to this person, and yeah, it turns out that is my father's family. Um, I said this in the last episode as like a lead-in into this episode, but I haven't said it yet this episode. But yeah, he's long since passed away. And I guess that was a thing in my head when I was thinking about doing this. Like when I'm thinking about, oh, should I try to reach him out, seek him out, and see if I can find him or whatnot. In the back of my head, I was like, he's probably I'm trying not to use the D word. He's probably passed on by now, based on my mom's age and that he was older than my mom. It's very likely that he's moved on. Um, so yeah, so I I found him. Okay, what now? Now I have this whole other side of my family that I have access to. And I guess this is the part where I go into. So, like I said, there's my intimacy issues because I was never part of a big family. I've hung out with friends and they have these big family parties, and like here in Hawaii, I have friends that you have a party and there's like 100 people and they're all related in one fashion or another, and that's great. But I never had that growing up. Um, and so now I have another side of my family that I have access to, and I talked to them for a while. I have a cousin that I know of. I have a half brother that I found that well, via my cousin that I found and I spoke to. Um, and I do plan to speak to again. However, based on my issues, like I said, I have a hard time getting close to people. And then when there's separation, like it's easy for me to slip away and allow that separation to grow. I haven't really spoken to them in a while, in months. And I think that's less about like whatever my relationship or my connection to them, and it's been about my own issues. It's been about me being depressed or being tired or dealing with this health issue or that, gaining a bunch of weight, which is I'm sure is quite clear on the camera. Um, and so it wasn't about anybody in particular. It was just about me not connecting with anyone really. Um, so yeah, like I said, there was this initial like, okay, I found them. I found my father. Okay, he's passed away. Okay, I know where he's buried. I want to go there. And again, this was like, about a year ago. After a few months, I wouldn't say I forgot about it, but it just kind of faded to the background in my mind, in my life. It's still there. And here I am recording a podcast about it, so it's coming up again. Um so yeah, I don't know where to end with that, cuz I mean that's where I am right now. So I'm working on myself. I'm putting out a podcast. This is the second podcast I've recorded in, I don't know, a couple weeks. I'm looking forward to putting them out regularly. And this whole process means that I'm following the path that I'm supposed to be following. I'm not hiding from my destiny, so to speak. Um, to quote Thanos, sorry. Which also means that I'm going to reconnect with them at some point. Because, the connection is there. The possibility is there. It's up to me to reach out and seek that connection. Oh boy. This is difficult. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna leave that there as far as like my father and my father's family and where that stands right now. Um, I think I'm gonna go back into like the psychology of it all. Um, so through my therapy work with Wailua, as I said, we I learned about the personalization of a child, how all these things that happened in my past, and as a child, I personalized them, and I devalue myself because of them, and to the point where, like I said, I mean, I'm 47 years old, and clearly this stuff is still in the back of my head, um, and like hasn't even really been known to me except for the past few years. And that's how powerful this is how powerful your brain is, and how what a profound effect this stuff can have on you, on me. I'm gonna make it about anybody else. I'm gonna say about me. So there's this, I'll use the words concept again, about the inner family. um so I mean, I've heard of an inner child. I don't know if anyone else has heard about that. um However, me and Wailua, I guess I should say, Wailua teaches me about, how I treat myself based on how I felt about what happened so many decades ago. And he talks about, like I said, inner family, but specifically in the case of my father and my absent father, he talks about the inner father. Um, and how as a child, I didn't have that strong male figure in my life. So my inner father is underdeveloped, which is why, um, I guess the phrase arrested development comes to mind, is that I was never able to grow as a person, as a man, if you will. And still to this day, there's a theme of, um, troubles me to say this, but immaturity, where I don't have that strong, loving father in my head who's guiding me. Um, so yeah, that's the idea of the inner father, and a lot of the work that we do, and a lot of the stuff that Wailua advises me to do, and a lot of it which I don't do for the most part, and I need to work more on that, is about developing the inner father. Um, to be that that firm, strong, assertive um, leader in my life, in my head, and also be the loving, compassionate, understanding parental figure, the ideal father. I guess I'll go into this. There's an exercise he taught me, which is called the Gestalt exercise, which basically means you visualize climbing a spiral staircase and going into a library, or he said it can be a server room or something like that, and you're taking out a quality that no longer serves you. We'll say, I don't know, lack of accountability, um, self abandonment, getting rid of that, and replacing it with an ideal father quality. So, accountability, taking care of myself, um, pursuing my goals in life. Um, and so, yeah, so I guess that's kind of it for that. Is that no external father, so the inner father is underdeveloped, and I need to continue to develop him. There's a quote. I was gonna say if you're a man, but if you're a man or a woman, and you want to know more about men, there's a YouTube channel called Man Talks with Connor Beaton, and it's also a podcast. I would highly recommend it. And again, you don't have to be a man. You just have to be concerned with men's issues. Um, and so the last little bit I'm going to say about interfamily therapy, and I guess the most significant part, is that we had me, Wailua and I. Oh God, if I said me and Wailua, he would correct me. He'd roll his eyes and correct me. Wailua and I, proper grammar, um, did a interfamily therapy session where I closed my eyes, breathe deep, and I visualize my inner family. And I forget all the details. I mean, I think there might have been siblings there. I don't remember. That's not really the important part, but there's definitely inner mother, inner father. And during that session, my inner father appeared to me as like this scary, shadowy figure. Um, Almost like not even looking like a human, looking like darkness, like flames, but just black and with red eyes. Um, and I don't even remember what was said. I'm pretty sure I have that recorded somewhere, and I should listen to it to give myself some, context. Um, but what I recall from that session is that I said things to him, to my inner father, and he shrunk away. He didn't respond in any kind of, definitely not in a positive manner. But he kind of just slunk back into the shadows, like the shadowy figure that he was. And that was like the whole session. That was months ago. I don't even remember how long ago that was, and that was like almost the entire session. Um, and recently, during a session with Wailua, um, he just brought it up. Like we had like I don't know, 10 minutes, less than 15 minutes to go in the session, and he said, I know based on whatever I was talking about, he said, okay, let's do a quick inner family, and so we did it again. I visualized. Well, I guess this time it wasn't like an inner family. It was just about him. It was about the inner father. I didn't really think about inner mother or any other kind of inner family dynamic. I just visualized him, and he came forth again, shrouded in darkness with the red eyes. Um, and so I forget again. I forget all the details. I just remember the important part. The important part was that I told him, "I forgive you." I told him, "I don't want to hold on to this hate anymore. I don't want this anger. I don't want this, this weight that has been fucking holding me down, pardon my language, for decades. Because all I'm doing is hurting myself." Um, and I just told him, "I forgive you. I know you had your own problems. You had your own issues that led you to be who you are, that led you to do what you did, and I forgive you." And when I did that, it's like the shadow, the darkness kind of dissipated. The red eyes, um, kind of faded into normal. And I'm going to be very careful about how I word this. Um, I'll just say that I guess through all my work with Wailua and all this inner family work and focusing on the inner father, it's like I built him up to be like this villain. Like, okay, this is the reason why I have anxiety, and I have low self-worth, and I have all this shit that I'm dealing with. I guess we're swearing in this episode because this is pretty heavy. And so I kind of lost my train of thought there. What was I talking about? And see, already, like, my brain is like trying to run from this. But I told him, "I forgive you. I don't want to carry this around anymore. It's only hurting me." And okay, yeah, okay. Train back on the tracks. Shadow faded. Eyes became normal. And then I saw a man. I saw a man who was no longer a villain. Um, and again, I'm going to be very careful about how I word this. He wasn't a man that looked impressive in any way. He was just I guess, to put it quite bluntly, he was what I think of myself now, I guess. 'Cause I guess I'm modeling myself after him. He seemed like out of shape, overweight, balding man who doesn't take very good care of himself. And that was profound for me because, again, like, I built up this villain in my head of like, oh, this is the reason why I've been dealing with all this shit all these years. And that's who it is. And he was just a man who was dealing with his own shit, which led to, again, I'm repeating myself here. Um, and then again, that inner family session took, like I said, 10 minutes, a little more, give or take. And right away, I'm skeptical. Like, okay, that was just kind of quick. That doesn't. All right, that was interesting. I don't think that was a big deal. Like, already, my brain is trying to separate myself from it. However, ever since then, and I I still make choices that are not serving me. I still I still have not gone full on with taking better care of myself. Better. Um, just something, and I mentioned this in the last episode. I didn't say why, but there's a clip out there with me talking like how something just clicked in my head, and something is different now. And I know it's because of that little inner family session. And that's how powerful that is. I wouldn't say, oh, like I'm totally cured and I'm free from all the issues that, derive from my inner family or from my abandonment issues or my daddy issues, my father wound. Just something has changed. Yeah. And I mean, here we are. This is, I don't know what I say. This is the proof that something has changed. Lathan is recording 2 podcasts in short succession when it took him, I don't know how long. I forget when my first podcast was. But it's been over a year since the first episode of this podcast. And I'm continuing on. I'm going to manage my expectations. I hope to put out an episode a week. That is my goal. We'll see where it goes. And I'm going to get far more active on, I don't know if I'm going to get active on social media. If any of you are following me, my YouTube channel, my social channels, I've been putting out these little video clips. There's a service called Opus Clips, which basically it's AI, which, is a whole nother discussion about the ethical or social ramifications of AI. I don't even want to get into that. However, for me, it works. It takes something that's very difficult for me and it makes it easy. And so where I can focus on doing this is the important part for me, is sitting in front of a camera, in front of a mic, and pouring my heart out. And to that note, one thing I wanted to mention is that I previously mentioned on a previous episode of this podcast is that I've said previously way too many times, had a podcast called the Lathan Media Podcast. That was my first foray into podcasting. And the same thing, I had it on YouTube. It's still on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LarthMedia. But the point I want to make there is that it was the same thing where I started out. I was really excited. It was very scary. I overcame my fears and I did it. And it's out there. It was available on audio as well, but it's no longer because I'm not paying for it because I'm still not recording it. I'm not recording it anymore. But the point is, I recorded 4 episodes of that podcast, and I just wanted to point out that this is episode 6 of the Lathan Minich Show. The last episode was episode 5, so that's the first step beyond what the Lathan Media Podcast was, and hopefully we'll continue on until God knows what this will lead to. And I guess that leads me into what's the future. What's the future for the Lathan Minich Show? Well, as I said, I'm not going to make any bold pronouncements of what this will be. I'm just going to continue to be consistent. I'm going to be consistent with myself, with my self-care. I'm going to be consistent with my creative output. And I'm just going to be consistent with living life. Because for a lot of my life and even life within the past couple years, I haven't been doing that. And I can look at, this health problem or that health problem, this mental health problem. I got to stop hitting the microphone mount. I'm sure that's going to show up on the audio. And so, yeah, here I am. I'm dealing with my health issues. I'm not even going to go into that. That's next episode, is my health and choices I've made in the past and the the status of those things. I'm not going to go into that right now. Let's just say I'm making changes and I'm going to take care of myself. That's I'm going to end on that. And I advise you do the same. Love yourself. Take care of yourself. Value yourself. Don't let anyone tell you what your value is, because only you can decide what your value is truly. Anyway, finito. Fin. If you enjoyed watching and or listening to the Lathan Minich Show, this is my template outro, which is not, I'm not reading this at all. If you want to support the show, you can do so by following the Lathan Minich Show on Apple, Spotify, and on most of the top podcast platforms out there. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LathanMinich. I am at Lathan Minich on Instagram and Twitter, currently known as X. I'm not going to make a joke about that anymore. And my Facebook page is facebook.com/LathanMinich. I thank you so much for joining me. This was very difficult, and which is exactly why I need to do this. Thank you for joining me. I love you. Take care.